யாதும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேடீர்.
செம்மொழி வலையொலி யூடியூப் சேனல். இந்த சேனலின் மூலமாக, அந்த வலையொலியின் மூலமாக பல்வேறு தகவல்களை தினந்தோறும் நாங்கள் வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த நிலையில் சிலப்பதிகாரம் என்ற தலைப்பில் ஒவ்வொரு பகுதியாக வழங்கக்கூடிய அந்த தொகுப்பை முழுமையாக கண்டு பார்க்கலாம்.
Kautilya says, discipline is twofold, acquired and inborn. For training disciplines, suitable stuff, not one unsuited. A science imparts discipline to one whose intellect has the qualities of the desire to learn, listening to the teacher, learning, retention, thorough understanding, reflection, rejection of false views, and intentness on truth and not to any other person. But training and discipline in the sciences are acquired by accepting the authoritativeness of the teachers in the respective sciences. When the ceremony of tonsure is performed, the prince should learn the use of the alphabet and arithmetic. When the initiation with the preceptor is performed, he should learn the 3 Vedas and the philosophy from the learned, economics from the heads of departments, and the science of politics from theoretical and practical exponents. And Kautilya continues, and the king should have constant association with elders in learning for the sake of improving his training, since training has its root in that. For the king trained in the sciences, intent on the discipline of the subjects, enjoys the earth alone without sharing it with any other ruler, being devoted to the welfare of all beings. The compiler of Arthashastra has stolen a few splendid ideas from Valluvar's chapter on the envoy and composed his section on the rules for the envoy by adding some more unpleasant ones evidently borrowed from his own predecessors who had written on statecraft in Sanskrit. While Valluvar presents the picture of a learned, wise gentleman, the other lauds a treacherous, unscrupulous villain. In Thirukural, the chapter on the envoy forms part of the broad section devoted to the subject of ministry, since Valluvar expects an ambassador to be of minister material. In his view, a competent envoy should be endowed with an all-embracing love, a noble birth, and virtues that would please the king. The essential qualities required of an ambassador are love, wisdom, rhetorical skill. He should be the most learned of scholars, endowed with inborn good sense and imposing personality. In order to make his mission victorious, he should have a fine sense of humor and speak precisely, eschewing harsh words. An able envoy is he who is not only learned but exceedingly courageous, whose words are persuasive and suitable for any occasion. Realizing his responsibility, the best ambassador chooses the right time and the right place to accomplish his task. A successful envoy is pure in words and deeds, loyal and helpful to the king, and daring in all his ventures. A fair-minded messenger, known for grit and determination, will never utter weak and unbecoming words either by slip of the tongue or by oversight or lack of courage. An ideal ambassador, Valluvar says, unmindful of any threat to life serves the true interests of his king. Regarding the employment of the envoy, the lengthy account given by Kautilya includes the following qualifications. One endowed with the excellences of a minister is the plenipotentiary. One lacking in a quarter of the qualities is the envoy with a limited mission. One lacking in half the qualities is the bearer of a message. The message is thus to be delivered to the enemy. He will probably say this in reply, for that this will be the suitable reply. Thus is the enemy to be outwitted. Reflecting in this manner, the messenger should proceed. And Kautilya says, he should enter the enemy's residence with permission, and he should deliver the message as given to him, even when danger to his life is seen. Therefore, envoys speak out as they are told, even when weapons are raised against them. The envoy should put up with disagreeable words. He should avoid women and drink. He should sleep alone, for it is often seen that the intentions of a person are revealed in sleep or intoxication. A king's trusty spies, according to Valluvar, are expected not to spare his officers and his friends besides his enemies. Kautilya's list includes all these and more. A king should sow spies among the enemy, the ally, the middle king, the neutral king, as well as among the 18 high officers of each of those kings. If Valluvar says that a spy should not hesitate to assume the role of a monk or a devotee, make way through every hindrance, and display a watchful mind in order to carry out his work successfully, Kautilya wants the king to employ the sharp pupil, the apostate monk, the seeming householder, the seeming trader, and the seeming ascetic, as well as the secret agent, the bravo, the poison giver, and the begging nun as his spies. In two well expressed couplets, Valluvar states that the information secured by one spy should be counter-checked with intelligence gathered independently by another spy, and that only when three agents corroborate one another, the information should be considered true by the king. The words and the ideas are simply echoed in Arthashastra. Kautilya says, echoing these words of Valluvar, assistants of the establishments should carry out the transmission of spied out news by means of sign alphabets, and neither the establishment nor these assistants should know one another. When there is a disagreement in the reports of three spies, credence should be given to it. Some of the remarkable similes employed by Valluvar are reproduced by Kautilya in different contexts. Eulogizing self-restraint, Valluvar states that if one is able to restrain the five senses like a tortoise, drawing its limbs, the discipline will give him lasting strength in all his 7 births. This simile. Kautilya urges the king to listen to counsel before taking any action and keep all his activities confidential. And then he adds, the enemies should not come to know of his secret. He should, however, find out the weaknesses of the enemy. He should conceal, as a tortoise does his limbs, any limb of his own that may have become exposed. In a chapter on the internal enemy, Valluvar warns that living with an internal enemy is for a king as dangerous as living under the same roof with a cobra. Kautilya, in a chapter on guarding against one's own sons, observes that a king should guard himself against princes right from their birth, and that Visalaka's advice that a prince should be confined in one place is unacceptable because that would be as harmful as staying with a snake, he says. In the chapter called Choice of the Right Time, one takes time to test the fitness of others for friendship. There is nothing wrong if one is slow to fall into friendship, because once a friendship is formed, there is no question of terminating it on flimsy grounds. Both Aristotle and Valluvar therefore speak of firm and constant friendship and address the question of dissolution of friendship. For Aristotle, intimate friendship consists in the mutual sharing of goods, according to the known proverb that friends' goods are common property. Complaints never occur between such friends. A good man should have a sympathetic consciousness of his friend's sensation and thought. The sympathetic consciousness may be enriched in the best way by conversing and living together and by sharing their thoughts and feelings. This intellectual communion is more important than anything else. And Aristotle adds, he needs therefore to be conscious of the existence of his friends as well, and this will be realized in their living together, sharing their discussion and thought. For this is what living together would seem to mean in the case of man, and not as in the case of cattle feeding in the same place. Friendship based upon utility and pleasure are broken as soon as the partners are found to be useless or unpleasant. With regard to the breaking of virtuous friendship, one has to be extremely considerate, according to Aristotle. When a man is chosen as a friend, the friendship may be dissolved only if his wickedness is incurable. If there is a chance that his character may be reformed, then it is good to make an attempt in that line before taking any drastic step. The Tamil poet Thiruvalluvar grows eloquent over the salient features of intimate friendship. That friendship is called intimacy, which cannot be injured by the liberties taken by the loved one. The right of intimacy is a part of friendship. To be pleased with such a right is the duty of the wise. Of what avail is long-standing friendship if it does not approve of the actions done through the right of intimacy? And Valluvar says, if friends by right of intimacy do a thing without being asked, the warm-hearted will be pleased with them on account of its desirability. Those who know the virtue of genuine friendship will not give up the intimacy of long-standing friends, even if the latter may cause their ruin. The world loves those that never forsake their friends, but love them with a deathless affection. Valluvar praises the virtuous that never alter in their affection for their old friends. But when some friendship is discovered to be evil or false, one need not hesitate to terminate it. He says, abandon silently and little by little the friendship of those who make much of what little they can do for you. When your foes affect friendship, wear a smiling face, but keep them off from your heart. This is his advice. Though with regard to the nature of friendship and its type, there are certain striking similarities between the views of Aristotle and Valluvar, there is a gulf of difference between them where the method of enquiry and the manner of presentation are concerned. Emphasizing the view that the method of enquiry in Aristotle's ethics and politics has to be different from that in disciplines such as metaphysics and mathematics. Aristotle himself says, "For it is the mark of an educated mind to expect that amount of exactness in each kind which the nature of the particular subject admits." In his book Ethics, the method is neither completely dialectical, based upon mere opinions of others, nor highly scientific, based upon absolute premises. Here what he aims at are not essential attributes and absolute truths as in philosophy or mathematics, but general or universal rules of conduct. He does not indulge in casuistry, but studies ethical questions from the viewpoint that is universally valid. As has been pointed out by great Greek scholars, the great principles of teleology, intellectualism and eudaimonism are woven into Aristotle's entire ethical study. Aristotle is primarily concerned with studying human nature as it is. The major aim of the ethics is not to preach or to convert or to persuade, but to analyze and to investigate the subject of human experience to universal judgment. If in Plato there is more prescription than description, the two are to be found in different proportion, that is, prescription and description are to be found in different proportion in Aristotle. Valluvar is also interested in general and universal rules of conduct and almost always arrives at conclusions that are not particular to his time, but valid and lasting for all time. His method is to define every virtue precisely, explain its merits elaborately, and to advocate it forcefully. He persuades men to pursue the path of righteousness by appealing to them earnestly, by commanding them solemnly, by wheedling them into agreeing, by pleading with them effectively, by promising them with immediate rewards, by frightening them into submission, or by threatening them with dire consequences. Relying as much on logical reasoning as on emotional appeal, he presents his ideas as time-tested and approved by generations of wise men. The readers hear the voice of an affectionate mother while reading Thirukural. The readers hear the voice of an affectionate mother, of a well-meaning father, of a wise statesman, of an eloquent orator, or a commanding lawmaker. There are more prescriptions than descriptions in Thirukural, but they are in the form of moving appeals or veiled threats. The reader is finally left with the impression that virtue triumphs over everything and that vice is repulsive. Aristotle's style, admirably lucid and concise, fits the subject matter and objective of his book Ethics, but it is completely devoid of literary polish, excepting for the occasional use of similes and proverbs. Plato's dialogues have been hailed as poems, though Plato himself banishes poetry out of his ideal republic. Conspicuously differing from his mentor, Aristotle shows the least interest in poetic expression. This does not in any way detract from the clarity he aims at, though on a very limited number of occasions, obscurity is caused by too great an economy of expression. Aristotle's critics have drawn our attention to certain other limitations like repetitions, digressions, and exercises in hair splitting. The reader will be extremely grateful to Aristotle for clear expositions of complex subjects, but he may at times long for aesthetic pleasure. Thirukural is at once a moral treatise and a work of art of the highest order. It employs throughout a single meter, the Kural Venba, which because of Valluvar's spectacular success appears to be perfectly suited to nomic poetry, to didactic poetry. The first line of every couplet consists of 4 seer and the second of 3. Only feet of 2 or 3 metric units, assai, are used. This tight structure does not exercise a brake on Valluvar's imagination or prevent him from using profusely common as well as rare literary devices. As V.V.S. Iyer rightly observes, the ability with which the poet manages, that is, Thiruvalluvar manages the caesura in these short verses is something masterly. It is within the compass of these 7 feet in every couplet that our author has compressed some of the profoundest thoughts that have ever been uttered by man, and how like a master he plays on this tiny instrument, sparkling wit and humor, the pointed statement, fancy, irony, the naive question, the picturesque simile. There is not one of these and others of the 1,000 tricks that our author has not employed in this perfect masterpiece of art. Because of Valluvar's predilection for concise expression, we come across a few obscure passages that have been variously interpreted by the commentators, but on the whole, the literary excellence of Thirukural rivals the grandeur of its philosophy. This kind of analytical study of the views of Aristotle and Valluvar on friendship enlightens us on one more vital issue. Some of Aristotle's commentators have expressed their surprise at finding 2 whole books of the Nicomachean Ethics devoted to the subject of friendship. There are those who have tended to treat them as a digression in a work that addresses the question of human morality. But the knowledge that another ancient philosopher living in a distant corner of the East was also considerably exercised, that Thiruvalluvar was also considerably exercised by problems relating to friendship and chose to deal with it in as many as 6 chapters may force the readers of the ethics to have a rethinking on their hasty conclusion about the 2 books. This will reveal the importance of the discussion of friendship in Valluvar's Thirukural and Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Thank you.